We found out that the average person spends 2.5 hours a day in drama. 2.5 hours a day per head count. And we just measured time at work. 2.5 hours a day walking around going, this is sick and wrong. I wasn't consulted. This is no way to run an organization. This is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe I've been asked to do X, Y, and Z. Judging, tattling, venting, scorekeeping. Anybody?
The wonderful Cy Wakeman is here.
Cy Wakeman!
Cy Wakeman.
It's how you react to those challenges in life that really make the difference, at least according to one person, Cy Wakeman.
See, leaders don't manage people, they manage energy. They manage energy away from why we can't to how we could. They unlock innovation. So I want you to be really thinking about how to get beyond your ego and get back in the part of your brain and self-reflection that opens up the best in you. Thank you.
See, everybody thinks circumstances are the reasons they can't succeed. Your circumstances are just the reality in which you must succeed. And guess what happens every day on the floor is we have some miscommunication about sections, make it happen anyway.
The ego has you believing stories like change is hard, but the reality is change is only hard for the unready. So a great example is a lot of people think their opinion will add value, but opinions are used to stop the action. It's your expertise that will add value.
I appreciate what you have to say so much. Not only have I been able to apply it to my work, but also to my children.
Doesn't it bring peace? It's just like a peaceful way to live. Oh, sweetheart. See, there's this place out beyond ego in all of our workplaces where we can do amazing work for humans and for our planet, but not if we stay on the path we're on. People call me all the time and they say, Cy, I want my team to be innovative, collaborative. I want teamwork. I want results. I want engagement. I want accountability. I tell you what, that's people's natural state once the drama's gone. You don't have to develop that for your people. You need to remove the drama. It's their authentic selves. It's already there.
If you were great right now, what would great look like? Now, this was a disarming approach for this nurse because traditional leadership models would teach leaders to do one of two things. One, you go fix it. You go, thanks for bringing that to me. I'm going to go and save the day. I will fix this. And that's what people are bringing you issues to go fix. But as a therapist, I know that that just reinforces the victim mindset. You can raise this up and it's too complex for you. You're not capable of being part of this. I'll take it from here. I'll go fix it. Wasn't part of my DNA. Many other leaders, to gain loyalty, collude. They go, oh my gosh, this is the third time admissions has screwed this up. We really are the victims. Our circumstances are the reasons we can't succeed. I didn't go there either. And instead, I was empathetic to her, but I called her to greatness. I said, if you were great right now, what would great look like? And so much changed for her in that moment. Instead of looking down and scowling and venting, she looked up and you could see was accessing more of her intelligence. She went to a whole different part of her brain and she came up with some great answers. She said, you know, if I were great right now, I'd be back in the patient room. I'd be gently explaining, although this feels concerning, it's actually a process. She recalled training she had recently gotten that if there's a mistake in the medical record, a good technique is to turn the monitor towards the patient and use visual cueing so as she's typing in the answer. The patient is soothed by the fact that she sees that change being made. And it also, she came up with, I'll call the team and we'll do a bedside. And it's not important what she came up with, but the fact that she came up with many, many, many options. And then my work as a leader was very simple. It wasn't that difficult. I just said, awesome, then go be great. And she did. Now, I checked in shortly after to show both the patient and her that there was some executive support and oversight happening. And I checked back with her and I said, so how did everything go? Is everything okay? And she said, absolutely. I did those techniques and things went well. I got things back on track. And so I asked her, what did you learn? And she had some great insights. She reflected and said, well, one thing I learned is when I was asked to be part of a process that I benefit from, meaning as a nurse, we're all checking her work as well. She said, I didn't show up, I didn't play very well. I said, awesome, now that you know better, you can choose to be better. And I use this as an example when I'm teaching leaders as my opening kind of vignette, because I want to ask folks, like, so am I some sort of nurse whisperer? Like, why did this technique work? It certainly isn't what we teach in traditional leadership practices. It's not what she was expecting. It's what I organically brought to the table given my training. But I asked people to reflect on, like, why might this technique have worked? Now, while they're reflecting, some people get frustrated. They're like, but Sai, what if there really was a process issue? And there was. We had just upgraded our computer systems. We loaded in procedures alphabetically, not intuitively, that increased the risk of a clicking error. But who would you rather have partnering with you on this process improvement? The self-righteous, judgmental nurse calling for your head to roll, or the self-reflective nurse interested in patient safety? I know that I would pick the second nurse. And the cool thing, the lesson here, it's the same nurse, just in a different mental position, just at a different level of consciousness. So when I ask, why do you think this worked? People usually start to play with the fact that it was empowering. I asked her for kind of her solutions. They're easier to buy into. And there's a couple of reasons, according to the science, the evidence, why this technique works. And one has to do with how your brain works, right? And one has to do a bit with how the world works. So first of all, this question, what would great look like, is a fantastic question because I'm pretty confident that most people have at least some answers for it. It's kind of a lay down question. How do I know people know what great looks like? Well, if they're capable of judging any of their colleagues, if they're capable of having judgment about another human being, the basis of their judgment is their opinion of what great looks like. And it's not about what you prefer. It's like, if you were great right now, what would great look like? If I am judging others, I know what great looks like. What does great look like? What HR is not doing, what my colleague's not doing, what admissions isn't doing. See, the very nature, the very ability I have to judge other people comes from this knowledge what great looks like. So great, everybody knows what great looks like. The problem is they tend to use it to judge other people on rather than call themselves up to greatness. They use it from a low-minded victim view of the world to call out where other people aren't meeting the standard, rather than from a level of higher consciousness, which is calling me up to perform at my highest level with all of my intelligence. So one reason this question and technique works really well is the fact that everybody, if they're able to judge others, has an idea of what great looks like. Now, the second reason is more to do with how your mind works. And the way I explain this to folks is, imagine if you have a light switch on your forehead. It's an invisible toggle switch. When it's toggled down, you're seeing the world through the part of mind that I call ego. You're seeing the world through the lens of ego. You're seeing yourself as the victim, other people as the villain. You're helpless. You are judging, not helping. You are not collaborative or innovative because you're locked into the smallest part of your intelligence, that amygdala. You're locked in to only seeing things black and white, fight or flight or freeze. You're really locked into, as I said, the lowest part of your intelligence. And when it's toggled up, you are tapping into coherence, to a greater part of your intelligence to a broader hemisphere of your brain. And when you're toggled up, you're able to be innovative and collaborative instead of judging, you're helping. When you're toggled down, you don't see any options to have impact. You can't change everything, so you can't even change anything. When you're toggled up, you're able to see multiple points of impact, and we all have a natural instinct to have impact. Is what leads us to engage. It's why engagement isn't external, it's a choice, it's an internal choice. When I'm toggled down, I don't see any place to engage, and so I just disengage and then editorialize on the world. I feel better by venting, griping, complaining, tattling, scorekeeping. When I'm toggled up, I have a lot of ways I can answer that natural impact because I see places to plug and play. So I naturally engage rather than disengage. So when we research engagement, we've over-indexed on engagement as all about how great the circumstances are from the organization. But we know that engagement is highly correlated to the amount of self-reflection, which is really the basis for accountability. So what's the takeaway here? The way to get from low self to high self is self-reflection. It's the ultimate drama diffuser. When someone is venting, to get them out of venting, if I try and rationalize with them in low self, if I try and use some of the leadership techniques I've been taught, they will just be punching that ego in the face, right? My first job as a leader is to get myself neutral, because my pain starts when I name something, right? So to get myself neutral, open my heart up, and then help toggle switch people into their higher level of consciousness so that we can look at this with all of our intelligence. And that's what a great question for self-reflection will do. And you're all coaches, you know the power of self-reflection. We don't often use it in the moment, integrated in leadership. And that's really the hack I bring to the table, because you can't be judging and self-reflecting at the same time. You can't be venting and helping at the same time. Your brain is a toggle switch, it's binary, it's either down or up. And so I need to first try and work that toggle switch and move you into higher levels of consciousness so that we can approach this from a different viewpoint. And that's where I started to realize that in leadership especially, most people didn't understand how the mind worked or how the world worked. And I started to really teach tools and questions for self-reflection and create a language where we talk about toggling up. And of course, when we get into the full-fledged classes that will be starting in September, I will give you an even broader background of knowledge about why some of these techniques work. Now, what you might notice is instead of me being a stress leader and fixing everything, my job is more about fostering self-reflection rather than coming up with all the answers, which again, I'm sure to you sounds a lot like coaching. So a lot of people ask me, like, how do I know this stuff? Well, I've made a career of being a drama researcher. I study how much drama there is in the workplace, how much time we spend in disruptive behavior or unproductive thought processes. I study the emotional waste, energy moving away from engagement, happiness, and results at work. And I've been able to quantify the amount of time the average person spends at work in drama. And these are good employees. These are, it's not about your performance level, it's about your human condition. So the average person spends 2.5 hours a day in drama at work. Resisting change, venting, griping, complaining, internal dialoguing, basically walking around going, this is sick and wrong, arguing with reality, which of course is an argument you'll lose, but only like 100% of the time. It's an internal venting going on where there's this narrative that's just always churning. So people are working, but they're working with a grudge. And when you start to take a look at the numbers here, that's 816 hours per year per head count. This adds up. If you take salary and benefits times headcount times 816 hours a year, this starts to add up to a terrifying and amazing opportunity to upcycle this source of energy and move it away from why we shouldn't have to and why we can't to how we could. It's an amazing opportunity for a leader to upcycle this energy and put it right back into results.